So he took the English tongue uh, to a logical extent, if you will, and an aesthetic, lyrical extent that I don't think could be matched by another writer. And also, all these years later, we're still trying to unpack what these plays say and mean. All of this language in the sonnets, also, it's kind of infinitely divisible. He's like a well, and you draw something up differently every time. So I only performed once as a Shakespearean character, and it was Aegeus, the father in *Midsummer Night's Dream*. Now that was a pretty dull part, I mean, most people would think that was a bit part, but really, like, I think there are no small actors. There are no small parts. There are only small actors. Really applies to any Shakespearean play, because you can be the herald in one of those plays and have to really think about what's going on here, what's the context of what's happening, what's my role in this play. They're so well laid out. So that was an amazing experience, actually acting in Shakespeare. When you actually put words in movement, put language in movement to what's on the page for Shakespeare, and it comes alive. It's quite a force of nature that you unleash. I see the themes, motifs, adaptations of Shakespeare and other works constantly. I mean, you can't get away from it. Shakespeare's like a reference document himself for everyone who came after Shakespeare. So all the poets that you're going to read reference Shakespeare in some way. There's so many small tropes that came from Shakespeare that we use every day. He totally changed the language, and we're still exploring the concepts that he suggested. It's amazing to see Akira Kurosawa take King Lear into feudal Japan, apply it, and make his version of King Lear as Ron. And it becomes something entirely different, but still the same. Orson Welles was obviously really infected by Shakespeare, so his version of Macbeth, I that's the version of Macbeth that I love most. And I think Macbeth's been adapted so many times and so well. Akira Kurosawa did that. Throne of Blood is the name of that. It's amazing. People coming to see it off the street, normal people, regular people, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, everybody. And the Queen eventually has a seat there in the Globe to see him every week. It's just like the Queen going to see the Beatles in 1964. It's like, what's going on out here? What's the rabble? Why is this amazing artistic things exploding? We see funding slashed all the time for the arts. If you're participating in say a play, say you're cast as Othello, the exploration that you're going to have to go through just to make that performance happen is going to increase your viability and potential as a human in every single way. I don't think that, especially what we view as liberal arts, is irrelevant to daily life, jobs, etc. I think it's vital for it. I think that in 100 years, people are going to still be here talking about Shakespeare, and they're still going to be interpreting it for today. There's going to be some Baz Luhrmann like director out there making another movie. God forbid, of Shakespeare. And it's going to. There are going to be writers and songwriters reinterpreting what Shakespeare said. It's never going to stop. He's always going to be relevant. There's several songs in these plays, and nobody knows how they go, and they always reinvent them when they do it. And they're great songs. They're always fantastic. I'd like to rewrite one of those things. But, I see his influence in so many people like Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen and, things like that. I mean, I don't know. I guess there's just no end to where you could go with music and Shakespeare, really, because Shakespeare, to me, Shakespeare is music. You know, those words, iambic pentameter, it lends itself to it. It was a different form of theatrical production where you had a rhythm on stage. It's like a rhythm that the audience gets into and they get very accustomed to, you know. So there's got to be a musical element to that. You know, it's already music and dance. It's already happening. You know, it's like everything at the same time. What if he had never existed? You know, what would language be like? Because it would be significantly different if he had not existed. And we didn't have all of these. We'd have something else. We'd be looking at like Ben Johnson's plays from the same time. My God, that's like Volpone or something like that. You know, that wouldn't have done it. You know, we'd have to have somebody else would have to be number one to everybody, the Bob Dylan of his time or whatever. Yeah, right. And maybe we concentrate more on Chaucer than we do now because Shakespeare kind of overshadows everything. Because, geez, it's like you know going from the Beatles to you know that band that you know rehearsed down the street.